Felicitating the bouquet by our head department, Dr. Bimlesh Kumar Singh sir, to Ndr Chandra from Central University of Nagaland, as well as Dr. Bimlesh Kumar Singh sir to felicitate Dr. Rajeev Kumar. Now I would like Professor Ndr Chandra and Dr. Rajeev Kumar to chair this session and do the further proceedings. Now I request Sir R.P. Singh from University of Lucknow to address this session. He is online.
Over to you, sir. You are invited.
Here. We are happy to be here in Mahatma Gandhi Central University, and the department is doing very well. I am thankful to Dr. Sanjay Srivastava, Honorable Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor P.D. Singh, Dean, Professor Guru, keynote speaker, Dr. K.P. Sharma from Kathmandu, Dr. B.K. Singh, who is piloting the program, Professor Alexandra from Indonesia, who is going to speak after some time, Professor R.P. Singh from University of Lucknow, who has been a good friend of mine, Professor Rajeev Kumar, MD, University Dept, Dr. Meeta from Nalanda University, Dr. Kalyani, Organizing Secretary, Dr. Patra, the faculty members of the Department of English, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Motihari, learned teachers, scholars, students, ladies and gentlemen. I am privileged to be here, and the program has been wonderful. We come across two great souls here. One, Mahatma Gandhi, who played vital role in freedom movement, who could I think understand heart and soul, mind and body of India. And the other on which we have been deliberating in the seminar, Shakespeare, who could understand from her earth to heaven and beyond that. It is great honor, particularly for me, to come here and to share my experience, which I'll be doing in valedictory session, of course. Right now, this session is devoted to three important personalities are there, scholars are there. Where is that? Alexandro from Indonesia, Dr. Rajeev from Haryana, and Professor R.P. Singh from Lucknow. They will be presenting their papers, and after that we will be deliberating on them. Okay, thank you so much. I would like to invite Professor R.P. Singh first to present his paper. Thank you so much.
Understand the statement later. Because there was some disturbance in my network. So, am I audible to you, sir? Honorable Chair?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay, so, sir, is it my turn? Is it my turn? Shall I start my talk?
Yes, sir.
Ji. Okay, Mr. Sarkar, I'm listening to you. Okay. Actually, the chair, the fellow colleagues over there, and learned audience. Actually, I have titled my talk this afternoon. This is Shakespeare and Indian literary culture, exploring the intersection of culture and traditions. So when I came to know about this grand event that was shared by the esteemed HOD, so I started looking around what are the receptions of Shakespeare in our cultural scenario. It is a big issue. It is quite interesting and enriching thought to see Shakespeare in the current scenario when we are working on different patterns of decolonizing the mind, when we are looking at the pattern of global village, and in that global village, how the local histories are meddling with the meta narratives. So, in that exploration, I came across a text of Nautanki. Nautanki is a folk drama, and this is very popular in the eastern part of Uttar Pradesh. And there is a small theatre group in the Barabanki district of Uttar Pradesh, and there Nautanki master is called in the folk wisdom is called. He has written a work, Macbeth Urf Warner Ka Jungle. In every Nautanki text we have the title Elias Urf, and that begins with, and I would start my talk with that statement. This is Awadhi, Urdu and Hindi. This is in Awadh region of Uttar Pradesh. We have such text. हैरत अंगेज करतब की चर्चा है ये, हैरत अंगेज करतब की चर्चा है ये, है पुराने विलायत का ये सिलसिला. This is the beginning of Macbeth, the adaptation of Macbeth in indigenous art form Nautanki. That is a folk theatre in Hindi region of Uttar Pradesh, Hindi region of Northern India. हैरत अंगेज करतब की चर्चा है पुराने विलायत का ये सिलसिला, ये कहानी है राजे सिपह सालार की, ये कहानी है राजे सिपह सालार की, ये कहानी वफा के अंजाम की, ये कहानी वफा के अंजाम की, दूर मशरिफ में है गजब का मुल्क. So it is beginning of how the theatre artist is introducing that play Macbeth to the local audience, to the indigenous audience of speaking bad here. Harith against Kartab. Harith against Kartab means that is a wonderful work that is going to be played here. है पुराने विलायत के सिलसिला. So I think how in his wisdom he has seen the beginning of Macbeth. ये कहानी है राजे सिपा सालार की, ये कहानी वफा के अंजाम की. Because you see in Macbeth we have how different type of different intrigues are there, different intimidations are there, different patterns of persuasions are there. दूर मशरिक एंड मगरिब ईस्टर्न एंड वेस्टर्न में है गजब का मुल्क, खूबसूरत बड़ा काफ़ी बड़ा, खूबसूरत बड़ा नाम काफ़ी बड़ा. सो दैट नरेटर सेज दैट इन द फार वेस्ट देयर इज अ नेशन, देयर इज कंट्री खूबसूरत, दैट इज वेरी ब्यूटीफुल कंट्री, नाम काफ़ी बड़ा. कहते आए इससे स्कॉटलैंड है सभी, कहते आए इससे स्कॉटलैंड है सभी, गोरों की ही तरह की हुकूमत यहाँ दूर मशरिक में है गजब का मुल्क. So this is the introduction how Shakespeare is grafted, Shakespeare is that is domesticated in our scenario. डंकन के नाम का था एक राजा वहाँ, डंकन के नाम का था एक राजा वहाँ, मैकबेथ मकदफ उसके सरदार थे. डंकन के नाम का था एक राजा वहाँ, मैकबेथ मकदफ उसके सरदार थे. दोस्त थे दोनों ही जंगजू थे, दोस्त थे दोनों दो ही जंगजू थे. How you see, just imagine the beginning of the play Macbeth, how Macbeth and Macbeth they are going and how they are meeting the pitches. दो राजा डंकन के सरदार थे. एक दिन जंग से होके फारिग जब वो चले, एक दिन जंग से जब होके फारिग वो चले, चेहरे पे थी खुशी, चेहरे पे थी खुशी. फिर अचानक अजब का अंदेशा हुआ, रास्ते में उन्हें 3 चुड़ैल मिली. फिर अचानक अजब का अंदेशा हुआ, रास्ते में उन्हें 3 चुड़ैल मिली. फिर ये आगे का किस्सा यहाँ है बिना, फिर ये आगे का किस्सा यहाँ है बयां, फिर ये आगे का किस्सा यहाँ है बयां. ध्यान देकर सुनो, ध्यान देकर सुनो, आलिमों ने लिखा है बहुत कुछ यहाँ, क्या है गुजरा वहाँ इसके किस्से सुनो, क्या है गुजरा यहाँ इसके किस्से सुनो. So this is the पूर्व रंग of that play. This is the beginning of the play in the Nepali folk theatre. So my intention to recite these beginning lines, the opening lines of the Naudanki called Varnan Ka Jangal or Macbeth, is that how Shakespeare has been domesticated, how Shakespeare's reception is there not only in the Bollywood cinema, not only in the theatrical and the literary context of different Bhasha literature in India, but here in the folklore also. When I, as a student of literature, look at the works of Shakespeare and the term Shakespeare in itself, so I find Shakespeare as a metaphor. Shakespeare as a metaphor in our Indian cultural, educational, academic setting. What kind of metaphor we are going to talk about? How we are going to decode Shakespeare? We decode Shakespeare in the trajectory of education, with reference to the legacy of Nagaland, with reference to the culture. When we take the term as it was all written in Greek in the time of Shakespeare. So if we look at the concept of any classic and concept of any established pattern of thought and education in Meghallian perspective, so we can say that Anglicized culture are we going to decode, are we going to look at Shakespeare in culture from the Anglicized purview, and also the part. So these 3 codes, they very easily come to my thought. How are we going to decode Shakespeare in education? How are we going to decode Shakespeare in culture? And how are we going to decode Shakespeare in power center? standardizing. The movement for standardizing Shakespeare and standardizing our education, English education with reference to the works of Shakespeare. And then adapting Shakespeare. This metaphor that offers a trajectory of adaptation studies. How are we going to domesticating? How are we going to make a domestic appeal of Shakespeare? As I have referred just some lines from the play Hindi folklore, from Hindi folklore, that is you can say that is kind of adaptation. How we have domesticated, how we are going to say that हैरत अंगेज करतब की चर्चा यहाँ राजा दंगन दूर मशरिक में है गजब का मुल्क. So if we write such type of writing, and this is not only in the written text, but this play was performed in the year 2008. In the year 2008, the director of the Nautanki is known as Muhammad Bannu. He was a Nautanki artist, and he has performed this play. There are some records also. So this is domesticating how they are going to scale. If you go ahead in decoding the text, reading the text, you will find so many scale, so many patterns of adapting the Western thought in the socio-cultural panorama, socio-cultural trajectory of this linguistic culture of ours. Then reinterpreting and intertextualizing phenomena. In adaptation, the scholars, they could draw the inferences from their research. So many works have been done, so many works are there. We all know it is a very Shakespeare is it is just like a very popular canon, very popular coin in our hands. If we talk about anybody, if you talk to any common man who is graduated, so he or she might be having a rough idea of the name of this part of heaven, Shakespeare. And we all know that he got introduced in colonial era. Shakespeare got introduced in the colonial era. And initially, when we look at the discourses on Indian English education in post-Macaulay era, the education after 1835, we see that initially he was taken as a symbol of Western cultural superiority. Then Indian scholars, they work in the line of scaling them in Indian framework. And if we look at the data, available data, so we find that it was the year 1817 when Shakespeare was first introduced in our curriculum at Hindu College, Kolkata. It was year 1817, Shakespeare's work that was introduced in our syllabus. And then we see how Shakespeare has been translated, how he has been adapted. Different patterns of adaptations are there. Right from, we will find right from the Bengali translation by Rabindranath Tagore. You see, Rabindranath Tagore has translated several plays of Shakespeare, like Macbeth, Othello, Tempest, etc. in Bengali. We also find the translation by Kumar Sen. Interpretations are also there. We can easily find these texts on internet archives and different libraries. In Hindi translations, if we look at the Hindi translation, we see Harivansh Rai Bachchan. Harivansh Rai Bachchan has done a lot of work in this line, and you will see the translation of Macbeth, Othello, and Hamlet into Hindi. Raghveer Sahai has also done some translation in Hindi. Raghveer Sahai has, especially, he is known for the translation of Romeo and Juliet, The Merchant of Venice, Midsummer Night's Dream in Hindi. They are easily available. In Kannada, also we have some references of the translation of Shakespeare. G.S. Sudarappa, he is a well-known author, Shakespearean author in Kannada, who has translated some text. In Tamil translation, P.S. Ramchandran's work, very popular translation are available by P.S. Ramchandran. Malayalam also, K.N. Panika, Sahitya Akademi, I think Sahitya Akademi has also published some text by K.N. Panika and the translation. Adaptations, very popular adaptation by Vishal Bharadwaj, we have all seen was Onkara, Makbul, many others also. Habib Tanveer sir, Chairman sir from your state, Habib Tanveer's translation, they are very, mid Summer Night's Dream in Hindi play, title Kamdev Ka Apna Basant Ritu Ka Sapna. Kamdev Ka Apna Basant Ritu Ka Sapna. There is a very popular translation and very popular adaptation. So also we will see the adaptation. If you are familiar with the name of Bharatiya Harishchandra has Durlabh Bandhu. Bharatiya Harishchandra has adapted Durlabh Bandhu, that very famous work, Merchant of Venice, and this is a very famous work for research and work. So, you see, Shakespeare has been translated, adapted, and worked, reworked, criticized, because that is, as we say, merit-minded Shakespeare. So that merit-minded perspective, we are going to take that in the canons of the world literature and different patterns of looking at the human sensibility, looking at the perspectives of humankind, nature, association, and different wishes, aspirations, dreams, visions, divisions of the world. So this is what we look at the acculturation pattern, look at the association of Shakespeare with reference to what we usually Shakespeare as metaphor. Now, if we talk about Indian literary culture, this is this topic, this phraseology can offer a bifocal pattern. Are we going to scale the values of Shakespeare from Indian viewpoint? We are going to look at the human nature from the Shakespearean lens, from the trajectory and canons of thought that are given in Indian scriptures, and we are going to find out some comparative canon, some comparative perspective to look at. So this is a research question. The topic is that, the issue is that, even I have done a work, and for that drama I got that is called Mohan Rakesh Puraskar, very prestigious in Hindi given by the government. That is and that is neither a transition, there is nor a adaptation. But what I did here, I selected some characters of Shakespeare. And the scene is that the background is there. It is midnight in London. 6-7 professors and one research scholar. They are coming after attending. They are going back to their hotel after attending a conference on Shakespeare. And in that conference, they had offered different views. Somebody says that Shakespeare was not born in England, but he was born in Africa. Somebody says that Shakespeare was an Asian. Somebody says that, because there are many proofs, you will find, like somebody says that he was associated with Queen Elizabeth in a way that is not appropriate. Many such things are there. So different scholars, they have proved their viewpoint in that seminar. When they're coming back, Shakespeare, with the help of his villainous character, fought hold of those professors, and there is an imaginary landscape where he called them. There is a scene, courtroom scene. They are asked to defend what they have said. So this goes to a debate of literary liberty. When we say that we have the license to, and then it comes to the direction of the sanction of that speech, and that comes to the end of the play. So what I say that I would like to infer here with reference to this, that if we begin with the Merriam-minded Shakespeare's version down to the contemporary idea of Honorable Prime Minister of when he governed of India, when he said that the concept of punch product, we have to offer, we have to think, we have to work in a perspective that is truly, that is Indian nation, and we are going to forget any colonial legacy. So in that concept, we have to find out at par with the value system, and because there are many thoughts, ideas, arguments in favor or against whether the role of Shakespeare. But ultimately, he is a great genius who has scaled human life, art, culture, almost everything. That is why he made it from a fresh viewpoint, there is a fresh interpretation of facts. So how are we going to interpret, how are we going to start a dialogue from the Indian perspective, and how we're going to scale the value system of the literary ode of Shakespeare from our own tradition of human life, our own tradition of thought, and our own idea of scaling human self in this world. Thank you so much. This is what I wanted to share. I wanted to offer a viewpoint from the perspective of associating Shakespeare in Indian literary culture and exploring the intersection of culture and tradition. So a lot of ideas are, a lot of things are there. How fresh are we in our perspective to look at this gem of thought in world drama, and how are we going to scale something to open new vistas to look at the things. Thank you so much.
Is there any question from the audience? You can address to Professor R.P. Singh. Yes? Is there any question?
No, sir.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Yes, you can share your views.
No, sir. No, sir. There's no question.
Shall we go ahead? Okay. Professor R.P. Singh talked about as to how Macbeth has been introduced in Nautanki, and further he talked about, how Shakespeare was interpreted, reinterpreted in India, and finally he talked about, how different authors and Indian scholars like Rabindranath Tagore, Harivansh Rai Bachchan, Rangiya Raghav has done wonderful job translating Shakespeare's plays, and Raghuveer Singh, and southern scholars like Yedurappa, Ramchandran, Ken Panikkar, and from Chhattisgarh, Habib Tanvi, and others like Bhartendu, Harishchandra. All they have tried to incorporate in Indian scenario Shakespeare and Shakespeare's soul. But the question here is that at present, how could we capture Shakespeare's sensibility? How could we introduce Shakespeare in translation? There are certain universities, they have canonized Hindi version of Shakespeare, but there are still many universities in India. If you go to Hindi heartland and go to the Hindi department or Sanskrit department, they don't know who Shakespeare is. So there is an urgent need to canonize the Hindi translation of Shakespeare, and in that way we can enhance the quality of our curricula and quality of research in Hindi languages and Indian languages. Thank you so much, Professor R.P. Singh. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. It was a pleasure associating with you, although in virtual mode.
We will meet someday. Thank you so much. Wonderful talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Invite Dr. Rajeev Kumar from CRAPG College, Sonipat, Maharshi Dayanand University, Rohtak, Haryana. He will be delivering his talk on the enduring legacy of Shakespeare. Dr. Rajeev Kumar, please.
Respected Chairperson, Professor Indra Chandra, professors who are sitting in this auditorium, dear students, it is an honor for me to stand before you and present a paper on one of the famous tragedies of William Shakespeare, the title of which is From Madness to Enlightenment. This is the paper on which I am going to present my views. From Madness to Enlightenment, a Buddhist and Hindu perspective on William Shakespeare's King Lear. King Lear explores the themes like aging, madness, suffering, and personal transformation. The central character, King Lear, experiences a dramatic fall from grace that leads him through madness and eventual enlightenment. Although often analyzed through Western tragic conventions, the paper seeks to provide a more profound understanding of King Lear by analyzing it from the perspectives of Buddhist and Hindu philosophies. Both of these belief systems focus on the idea that suffering is a part of life, that attachment to things can cause pain, and that letting go of the ego is key to ending that suffering. Actually, my focus is on to show or to present the ideas that Hindu and Buddhist philosophies have something to say about King Lear, and we can judge King Lear on the basis of these philosophies. What Buddhism says, both Buddhism and Hinduism recognize suffering as an inherent aspect of human existence. In Buddhism, suffering is central to the Four Noble Truths. The first truth acknowledges that suffering is inevitable. The second explains that suffering arises from desire, ignorance, and attachment to the impermanent world. And what does Hinduism say? In Hinduism, suffering is viewed similarly, arising from attachment to the transient and material world. The concept of dukkha in Hinduism is often related to the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, an endless cycle of suffering that individuals are bound to unless they realize their true nature and transcend attachment. The teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred text in Hinduism, emphasize the need for detachment from the fruits of one's actions and the importance of performing duties selflessly. But this is not all happening in King Lear. What does happen in King Lear is that in King Lear, when the play opens, we see that the king decides to divide his property among his 3 daughters. And he wants them to express their love for him. What does he say in the opening lines of the play is that he asks his daughters that which of you shall we say does love us most, that we our largest bounty may extend, where nature does with merit challenge. Actually, King Lear wants to judge his daughters on the basis of a love text. That's why he wants them to express their love towards their father. First of Goneril comes and expresses her love. Then Regan comes, she also expresses her love to his father. What does Goneril say? Goneril says, I love you more than word can will the matter, dearer than eyesight, space and liberty, beyond what can be valued, rich or rare, no less than life. In the same way, Regan also expresses her love towards her father. Then Cordelia comes and she expresses her love and devotion for her father. Unlike her sisters, Cordelia is trustworthy, honest and practical in her reply of love. She says, I love your majesty according to my bond, no less, no more. Then what happens later on? What does it show? It shows that Lear is attached to his own power and his desire for recognition from his daughters are the root cause, and it becomes the root cause of his suffering. This attachment mirrors the Buddhist and Hindu concept of suffering caused by attachment to desires and ego. Lear's inability to see beyond his material desires is rooted in his attachment to power and ego. Much like the false identification with the body and external possessions that the Gita warns against. In Act 4, Lear speaks of his suffering. I am a man more sin against than sinning. Here Lear's recognition of suffering as being both self-inflicted and externally imposed parallels the Hindu concept of karma, action and its consequences. Lear's attachment to power and his pride lead to his downfall, and through this he experiences the pain necessary for spiritual awakening. Then there is the concept of the impermanence of the self. It has been highlighted in both Hinduism and Buddhism. Buddhism says, in Buddhism, the doctrine of Ananta, no self, teaches that the self is not permanent, unchanging entity but a collection of transient phenomena. The Buddha thought that attachment to a permanent sense of self causes suffering because individuals cling to the illusion of fixed identity. Lear's attachment to his identity as a king is a manifestation of his attachment to a permanent sense of self. Lear believes that his role as a monarch defines his worth, and when he is stripped of his kingship, he experiences a crisis of identity. And what happens then? When he is stripped of his kingship, Lear becomes uneasy, and finally he goes mad in the play. What happens in the play? He goes mad. Lear's madness is nothing but a reflection of the disintegration of the false self that he has constructed over his lifetime. In Act 3, a gentleman describes to Kent the pitiable condition of Lear. He is seen tearing his white hair and losing his mind's balance. He describes himself as a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. Towards the end of Act 4, Lear is restored to his senses by the doctor who had administered certain herbal medicines to him. On opening his eyes, Lear thinks that he is in some distant world away from his friends. However, Cordelia convinces him that he is on the earth in this very world. Cordelia asks for his blessings, but he is still not sure that it is Cordelia speaking to him. Lear says, I am a very foolish, fond old man, fourscore and upward, not an hour or more or less, and to deal plainly, I fear I am not in perfect mind. As Lear loses everything, he is not in his perfect mind. He begins to realize that his former self of identity was constructed an illusion. Lear in Act 4 states, when we are born, we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. This line reflects Lear's growing realization that life is a transient and impermanent experience full of suffering. His reference to the stage of fools mirrors the Buddhist teaching that all worldly experiences are fleeting and illusory. Lear's suffering becomes a catalyst for his awakening to the truth of existence, much like the Buddhist path towards enlightenment. Hinduism also presents the concept of an eternal self, the Atma, which is ultimately one with Brahma, the supreme reality. The Atma is not separate from the divine, and the illusion of individuality is caused by ignorance. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna teaches Arjuna to recognize that the body and ego are temporary, while the Atma is eternal. Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita encapsulate the eternal nature of Atma. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. It is not slain when the body is slain. So, actually, Lear's madness, he becomes mad, and his madness is because of his attachment to his identity as a king. His madness forces him to confront the truth that his former self was always illusory. A.C. Bradley also explains, quote, Lear's tragic flaw is not only his pride, but also his inability to understand the illusory nature of his power and identity, unquote. As Lear loses everything, his kingdom, his power and his mind, he begins to see through the veil of illusion. This realization mirrors the Hindu teaching that liberation comes through transcending Maya and recognizing the true, unchanging self beyond the material world. Now let us turn to understand the role of compassion and love in the in self-awareness of King Lear. Both Buddhism and Hinduism highlight compassion as a central aspect of the spiritual journey. In Buddhism, compassion is the capacity to acknowledge that the suffering of the others and respond with kindness, understanding and wisdom. Cultivating compassion allows individuals to transcend the ego, fostering a deeper connection with all beings, which ultimately leads to enlightenment. Similarly, in Hinduism, love and devotion are viewed as the highest spiritual practices. By dedicating oneself to God and engaging in selfless service, individuals transcend the ego and recognize their oneness with the divine. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that through surrendering the ego and offering one's actions to God, liberation can be attained. In both traditions, compassion and love are seen as transformative forces that dissolve the boundaries of self-centeredness and illuminate the path of spiritual liberation and enlightenment. The transformation of King Lear mirrors the spiritual evolution. Initially consumed by his own suffering and arrogance, Lear begins to develop a heightened awareness of the pain and suffering of others, particularly the common people. This shift in consciousness becomes evident when he is advised to move towards a nearby hovel. Lear's first concern is the fool, to whom he says, "Poor fool and knave, I have one part in my heart that is sorry yet for thee." This marks a significant turning point in Lear's character development, where he begins to recognize the suffering of others beyond his own. Then transformative power of love is most clearly demonstrated in Lear's relationship with Cordelia. At the start of the play, Lear rejects Cordelia's sincere love in favor of the flattering words of his daughters. However, as Lear faces the consequences of his own action, he comes to see the depth of Cordelia's love and the true nature of their bond. In the heart-wrenching scene of Act 5, Lear describes Cordelia's takes a lifeless body of Cordelia in his hands and cries out, "Why should a dog, a horse, a rat have life, and thou no breath at all? Thou shalt come no more, never, 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 never." This moment of profound grief signifies a spiritual awakening for Lear. His love for Cordelia, now stripped of any attachment to power or self-interest, becomes a pure and unconditional love. It is an expression of compassion that transcends ego, status, and the material world. Lear's recognition of the impermanence of life, of his overwhelming love for His daughter reflects the Buddhist and Hindu understanding of love and compassion as forces of transformation. Lear's reconciliation with Cordelia also symbolizes a moment of spiritual clarity. He no longer clings to his former sense of self, but instead embraces a new understanding of love, forgiveness, and the interconnectedness of all beings. While his death is tragic, it also represents the release of his attachments and the recognition of the impermanence of all things, a key insight in both Hindu and Buddhist philosophy. Harold Bloom also mentioned, quote, Lear's movement for reconciliation with Cordelia represents the final realization of his place in the cosmic order and acceptance of mortality and a release from the ego. He has transcended his attachment to power and status and comes to accept the inevitability of death. Thank you for your attention and joining me on this exploration of King Lear through the lenses of Buddhism and Hinduism. Thank you. Any questions? Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Rajeev Kumar, to talk about the enduring legacy of Shakespeare, and you beautifully touched upon Buddhist ideas, Hindu idea of attachment, also cited illustrations from Bhagavad Gita and Shakespeare's Hamlet, King Lear, and ultimately you talked about idea of liberation, compassion, love and devotion, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much. The last speaker is Dr. Alexandro Maximilian. He is associated to STKIP PGRI Bandar Lampung, Indonesia. His title of presentation is Enhancing Students' Learning Engagement for Teaching Works of Shakespeare. I would repeat it. Enhancing Students' Learning Engagement for Teaching Works of Shakespeare. I would like to invite Dr. Alexandro to deliver his lecture on the title mentioned here. Is he present on the screen? Yes, sir. Yeah, please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste from Indonesia. The Honorable the VC of MGCUB Bihar, the Honorable the Head of English Department, Dr. Bimlas Kumar Singh, and my respected professor, he is there, Professor Harisingh from the University of Lucknow, and all the speakers in this symposium. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for inviting me in this wonderful symposium. Thank you very much. Well, without further ado, I will start my talk about when technology meets Shakespeare. When technology meets Shakespeare, it is about enhancing students' learning engagement for teaching the work of Shakespeare. Well, in my talk, I am dividing the material into two parts. The first one is why it is important to teach Shakespeare in English subject, and the second one, I'm also talking about how to enhance the learning engagement using technology when we teach Shakespeare. I would like to start my discussion about the question why it is important to teach Shakespeare in English subject. I got the schedule of this presentation only last night, and I saw that I read several topics related to Shakespeare, but I only find one subject, one topic, one presenter who will talk about Shakespeare and education, Shakespeare and teaching. Shakespeare is very important. So there is a question in my mind that why most of the participants are interested with the topic of teaching Shakespeare itself. It is very important to teach Shakespeare. I will discuss the result of my survey to my Indonesian students and also the lectures in my department. Last year I made a survey and I will show you the result of my survey. Okay, as we know that William Shakespeare is one of the greatest writers of English. He wrote most of his work between 1590 and 1613. It was written a very long time ago, right? But today, right now, his work are still very popular. Again, I say, today his work are still very popular. And in Indonesia, and I also know that in India, the students are also in Indonesia studying the work of Shakespeare. Studying Shakespeare is very important because his work are very rich. They can also enrich the reader's life in many ways. For instance, his work are very rich in the English language, and this can be a good source for learning the language. You know, Shakespeare contributed many words to the English vocabulary. He was the one who contributed so much in our language right now, our lingua franca right now. You are in India and I am in Indonesia, and we are united using on the language of English right now. And most of the words, most of the vocabulary are coming from the words of Shakespeare. The works of Shakespeare are also making us sensitive to the English language. His works are also challenging because they are not easy. I asked my students in my research, I some question to my students, and my students said, the language of Shakespeare's work are not easy. Yes, we realize that the language of Shakespeare are not easy, but once a person is able to study and understand them, we get aware that the language itself is very powerful, and through it, someone can experience the more power, especially in the drama and also the play and others literary works. Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear participants in this symposium, in this conference, and the messages in Shakespeare's works, Shakespeare's work are still relevant even today. He talked of things such as the power shows how corrupting power can be easily be greedy people. He shows how people in power find it difficult to balance their private power and also their public life, and show how people in power appeal the masses for selfish interest. His work explore other issues also, such as gender, sexuality, love, and war, among others. These issues show the kind of relationship the people have in this society right now. So, again, I am saying that the work of Shakespeare are very rich and also still relevant to our lives today in our today's society. In addition, his plays contains wit and humor also, and are very entertaining as well as being educative. This is why Shakespeare's work can help university and also the school students to have a deeper literary appreciation. His works open up our imagination and also our critical thinking. I know that you have a critical thinking. You use your critical thinking when you are reading the work of Shakespeare. Considering this reason and evidence, it is very clear that it is very important to study Shakespeare. So, ladies and gentlemen, because it is very important to study Shakespeare, so it is also our responsibility as a language teacher, as an English teacher, to teach the Shakespearean work. That's why I suggest you to do a topic related to the teaching and Shakespeare in the education. I think it is very interesting topic. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to show you my survey that I did last year. I asked 60 students from my department and 12 English teachers from our department. You know, I am coming from the English language education from the Lampung province. It is a province in Indonesia which that is located in the Sumatra Island, and it is one of the big city in Indonesia. And most of the students say that most of them agree that Shakespeare is very relevant and still relevant. Shakespeare is viral. It means that 80.32% of the students want to learn Shakespeare in their classroom. 30% of students want to learn Sagar, vice versa. Only 5 out of 12 English teachers agree that Shakespeare is still relevant with today's era. It means that only 41.6% of the students of English teachers who agree with Shakespeare in their English subject. Yeah, for most of the students agree to teach to learn Shakespeare's work, but only 41 teachers who in the 41% of the teachers who the students agree with Shakespeare in their subject. This fact is an irony for us to learn Shakespeare's work, but only agree with Shakespeare in the subject learning. But it's the real fact. It is very real. Why? From this conference, I also found that only 2 persons, including me, who talk about teaching Shakespeare. This is an irony. Why? Most of the teacher knows the benefit. I know that most of the English teacher knows the benefit and the of the knowledge of I advantages here to their students. But the teacher have some worries. Most of us have some questions whether their students, our students, still like to talk about Shakespeare story or not. There is a big question in our mind as the English teacher. Is it still better to teach Shakespeare to our students? The teacher, the English teacher, confused about the language, whether the students still want to learn about the Shakespearean language or not. Most of them also get confused about how to teach Shakespeare to their students, how to attract the students' attention and also the students' motivation during their time in learning English language. So, as a solution, the English teacher have to know that teaching Shakespeare is very important. And doing a research related to Shakespeare and teaching Shakespeare and education is very important also. So the teacher can know the way for having an effective teaching way, an effective teaching strategy using some method, using some tools that can be attractive and also can make the students engage and have a meaningful experience in learning Shakespeare when the students learn English. Therefore, in this part, I also want to talk about how technology enhance the students' learning engagement in teaching the work of Shakespeare. For this topic, I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation. Actually, I have prepared this. Is it possible for me to show you my PowerPoint presentation? Sir, is it possible for me to share my PPT? Okay, I will try to share it. I think it is not possible for me to share it. Oh, sorry. Okay, it is not possible for me to share it because the system are not allowed for me to share it because there is, I think it will take a long time for me to set the setting, I think. So I will read it for you. Okay. Actually, I want to show you that yes, it is true that using technology can be using innovative technology tools and platforms that enhance the teaching of Shakespeare can be one of the way to attract the students' enjoyment, to attract the student engagement in our classroom. But you know that there are still discussion related to it. Is technology making teaching English better or worse? Although there is considerable discussion over the use of technology in English literature, but although there are the use of literature classes, there is no doubting that digital resources can present special opportunity for teaching and learning the language. Why? Because combining appropriate teaching strategy and technology could be an option for today's Gen Z. Yeah, because the characteristic of the Gen Z students, they are very near with the technology. And combining and integrating technology and our teaching, especially in teaching literature, teaching Shakespeare, can be attracting, and also it can boost the engagement of the students for their deep learning activities. Of the use of new digital technology can be more suitable for the generation Z characteristics. So the characteristic of Gen Z are very near with the technology. So English teachers need to adjust their teaching activities in order to engage students in mastering the literary aspect of the works of Shakespeare, as well as inquiring and enriching the students' language skills. So we can use the technological tools. For example, we can use interactive whiteboard. Interactive whiteboard can allow the educator, the teacher, to display text, the video, and also the interactive content of Shakespeare's work, because it can provide us the dynamic discussion. So the student can involve, and so when the students can involve actively to the lesson, it can enhance the student engagement and also the students' comprehension. And then there are numerous educational apps designed for teaching Shakespearean's work, such as quizzes, storytelling application, and character analysis tools. And also we will talk about gamification. Gamification that can engage the students with the material. So it is very possible for the teacher to teach the students about the gamification, so it can increase their attention. Online quizzes, for example. Online quizzes can be utilized to assess students' understanding of Shakespearean texts. The tools, Kahoot or quizzes, and also even Google Classroom can be enabled competitive environment for the students to recall plot points, themes, and also the character analysis, and also reinforcing their learning. And then we will talk about digital platform. E-learning websites are very easy to find right now. Dedicated e-learning sites provide resources, lessons, and forum for discussion Shakespeare's work. This platform often feature video content, discussion board, and also downloadable materials that support both teacher and the student. So most of the e-learning websites that relate to the Shakespeare's can be downloaded. Because I have already downloaded some materials related to Shakespeare. And then social media engagement. Social media platform can be leveraged to create communities around Shakespeare. The teacher can use Twitter, for example, or X for live discussion. The teacher can also use Instagram to share visual interpretation of his work, enhancing students' involvement and creativity. And also, the students can use creative methods for teaching. I previously saw it, I talk about gamification, yes, combining the tools of technology, the tool of e-learning, the tool of teaching apps with the material plus combining it with the game aspect, gamification aspect can be fun for the students. Incorporating game elements such as the poem, the badges, and also the challenges into Shakespeare's lesson enhance the students' motivation and involvement. Educators can create competition, so the teacher can create a competition in our class. For example, we can make a competition related to the character analysis, plot summaries, and also vocabulary quizzes. Because it can encourage students to interact with the material in a fun and interactive way. So we can use gamification technique combining with technology to our students, so that our students cannot be feeling bored. And then another option is using podcasting Shakespeare. Students can create podcasts using Shakespeare's play, theme, and also the character of the literary work. Another which hosts the podcast to understand the game and improve public speaking and also the speaking skill of the students. So using podcast can be an option for us to teach Shakespeare in our classroom. And then video adaptation. Several years ago when I was in Lucknow, I got an opportunity for being a judge, one of the judges in a literary celebration in City Montessori School, I think. The opportunity was given by my supervisor, Professor Harisingh at the time, but I can watch the video adaptation provided by the students, by the supervised senior high school level students. So it was a very enjoyable experience for me to watch the video adaptation provided by the students, utilizing films and schools adaptation of Shakespeare's play can enhance the computers. So we mentioned but provide a very for the visual context. The students can compare different adaptation, discuss and tutorial, changing the prevention by public voices, and even create short videos in the interpretation. Teaching the classic literature with the motive and storytelling. This is direct technique. Again, I have to make a stress about it. Bridging classic literature with modern bridging classic literature with the modern storytelling technique. Again, I have to say modern storytelling technique. Create discussion forum. It is not a must to have a discussion using face-to-face forum, but we can use online action using a technological platform for the students to engage dialogue. So today it is very easy to discuss something, to create a forum, so the students can have a collaborative exploration in the literature point of view. And then interactive role playing, it is also possible to be applied, to be implemented in the classroom, in the Shakespeare class, because role playing exercise allow the students to embody the character from Shakespeare play. facilitating the deeper understanding of motivation and also the conflict using the technology. So we can create a play using the technology. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is unarguable to say that Shakespeare is still relevant today and has stood at test of time. Reader can resonate with the universal message his work has. So, dear my respected participant, sir, please try to conclude. Okay, sir, I will conclude it. I will make a conclusion about my talk. I think because of the time. So, for the conclusion, it is unarguable to say that Shakespeare, integrating Shakespeare and technology not only enhance engagement and understanding, but also prepare the students for modern communication and creativity. So it is not only talk about language, we are not only teach our students about the language, about the literary work, but we also teach them by combining the technology, we can also prepare the students for the modern communication and creativity skill. Using innovative tools and methods, the educator, the teacher, can make Shakespeare's work more accessible and also relevant to today's students, today's learners. So it is expected that the discussions related to this study, related to the teaching Shakespeare and technology, could have a potential to significantly advance the creation of more creative teaching strategy for students in improving their engagement and their social understanding, like for assisting in their language acquisition and also learning experiences through the work of Shakespeare in the literature classroom, in the English literature classroom. So I think this all for my presentation today. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry for not able to come directly until meeting you in a face-to-face forum. But this is a pleasure for me really to meet you in this Google Meet able directing. I would like to meet again. I would like to thank and appreciate all of the person who worked very hard for realizing this symposium, this conference. Thank you very much for organizing this wonderful conference. Thank you very much. Thank you and see you later. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maximilian. Is there any question relating to his presentation here? No question? Okay. He talked about how do we teach Shakespeare, and in second part, he talked about how can we enhance students' learning to Shakespeare. He discussed at length how could we incorporate technology, gamification, online, e-learning, social media, video apps, and so on and so forth. And the very idea is to enhance literary taste and to teach our students for communication and creativity, he said. I would like to conclude today's session with the very question, why do we study Shakespeare? We know very well. The first and the foremost reason is that we have a theory of catharsis, that it arouses emotions like pity and fear and releases our excessive emotions. This is the first reason. The second reason is that Shakespearean plays beautifully create a kind of human condition, to be or not to be. And that's very important. It also talks about each and everything from life to death and beyond it. So we learn something reading Shakespeare and watching his plays on the stage. The third reason is human experience. While reading Shakespeare's plays and watching it, we come across human experience. We also come across multiplicity of responses, and then emotion, it also enhances emotional capacity and releases excessive emotions, as I said earlier. It also enhances skill. Many creative writers, they have learned something from Shakespeare. They were inspired by Shakespeare. Shakespeare ignites us and purifies our mind, body, and soul. We also need to understand wordplay, rhetorics, vocabulary, syntax, grammar from Shakespeare, how it was in Shakespeare's time, Elizabethan time, and how they have been changing through the passage of time. Lastly, the last point I would like to add is that Shakespeare's plays, we find adaptations into TV, film, YouTube's hypertext form, and so on and so forth. They provoke debates, arouse emotions and enjoyments, and engage teachers and scholars for further research and pedagogical applications. With these words, I would like to thank our Professor Singh and the department for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I must thank and congratulate the audience also for spending their precious time. Thanks to the students. Thank you so much. Thank you.
As we conclude this plenary session, I thank you all for your valuable insights and engagements. Let's carry this discussion forward and put your ideas into actions. We look forward to continuing this conversation beyond today. See you in the next session. Thank you.